And we are rolling. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the More Love Nation show. And today I have special guest Nora Targonski O'Brien. And she started laughing because I was butchering her name or I was saying it really slow like a weirdo. So I said it really fast there. But anyways, we have her on the show today. She is an artist, an actor, writer, director, producer who likes to be introduced with 90s pumping up jams, but I don't have it on today, so she didn't send me that in the email ahead of time. So it's just me rambling. So how you doing today, Nora?
Well, obviously my manager dropped the ball. Like he's supposed to send you my preference sheet. Pew, 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 pew. You have to do like an air horn and then play some jock jams in the background. No, Nora Targonski O'Brien. I'm good.
Oh my gosh, we better fire your manager.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my manager's me, so it's a love-hate relationship.
Give me 1 second here. I'm sorry. Do you see my thing in my top right corner?
Recording in top left. I don't see diddly doo on the top right. I hit continue though. Something came up on my screen. I said, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I just know when I did this before. Remember when the screen goes back and forth? Like we were interviewing you on the Heart of Cinema film. Remember when we do the interview and it goes back and forth with the screen? I'm just trying to make sure that this is working that way. Shit.
What do you want? Speaker view? Is it part of viewing it? How you view it?
Yeah.
I can help you because I'm a professional. So you can either have gallery, which is like everyone involved. So there'll be two squares side by side, or you can have speaker, which is going to light up and feature the person talking biggest.
Huh.
You probably want gallery because that's the most equitable in terms of seeing both faces. But I shouldn't be bossing you already.
Oh, that's okay. Where is gallery on here?
Oh, it's going to be under view when you hit view.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Oh, awesome. This is what I like. Okay, this is the format that I want. Sorry about that, folks. So here we go. Awesome. Now we can see both our faces. Now we can laugh, talk, listen, interrupt, whatever, swear, say fuck. Let's get it out the way. I'm going to say it first, you guys. I just said fuck, okay? I know this is the More Love Nation show, but we love each other. We let people use the language. I think when people talk, the more authentically they talk, whatever that looks like for them, I think we need to learn, as long as it's not like we were talking about before in a hateful, racist, or whatever derogatory way. I think we need to learn to not judge people on the way they even communicate. So I think that's really important here. And then that's also another point about love is just like learning how to communicate with each other. And when you really care about someone, you want to understand how they communicate, because that's going to give you a better chance at developing that relationship with that person. And we all communicate differently. Hence, we have the book called The 5 Love Languages. I don't know if you've read that book, but like the 5 love languages, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's like each person, it's not one, but typically we have like different love languages that we use. Like it's some people it's gift giving, some people it's quality time, some people it's like physical touch, some people it's
cut to like every single man on every single dating site. It's like love language, physical touch. Like, no, yeah, really, no shit. Of course, it's physical touch every single time. I'm like, this is a given. It's physical touch among maybe gift giving or acts of service, give or take.
Definitely gift act of service for men. A lot of men don't know. So a lot of men aren't, from my experience, aren't, and I'm guilty of this. I've had to really do a good job of, and I think this is what helps me, I guess, with all my relationships, is I've had to really dive deep into learning how to have my emotional intelligence, is being aware of my emotions, not letting them control me, but also not just stuffing them down like a typical man does, or just a people, but men typically are known for this, and not being able to communicate them. And a lot of times I think it's easy for men. It's just like, oh, I'm going to buy something to show I'm going to give you this because that's like me being the provider type thing, protector and provider. And I think that's where a lot of men lean on. And there's nothing wrong with being a protector and a provider, but if that's the only way they know how to communicate, I think it's important. They need to be aware of that, to explain that to their partner, that maybe if some guy is working all the time and doing that, that's his way of showing his love. And I just think it's important to communicate. But I do believe at the end of the day, ignoring all that, the best relationships is where people can emotionally communicate their feelings. Like, I think men should still strive for more than just being a provider, because humans, we need to be able to communicate our emotions. Like, if I can't do that, I'm fucked, especially as artists. Like, we're actors. Like, we need to understand emotion at its core and be able to perform that. So the same thing goes in our real life. Like, we need to be able to understand our own emotion, how to communicate that. And like, that's what this whole show is about, really, the More Love Nation show. It's rooted in creativity, but it's really rooted. If you listen to like the introductions, as people listen to my podcast, I have like copywriting, and it says this show is rooted with trying to help people cultivate infinite power and love in their life, giving them the right tools, the right mindsets, and the right connections. So that's what this show really is about, is like trying to move people in that direction. And I believe creativity is the quickest way that we are able to do that and express that as artists, is that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to express and communicate and show to the world through art, emotional feelings and connections. So it's just pretty cool. So that's kind of my ramble. And I have that in the front of every episode, and my trailer that explains all that. So the more we have guests on, the more people know about the show, they'll understand that. But I'm also saying that to you, so you kind of get an idea of why the hell I did this show and why I want to have people like you on.
Yeah, I don't know if I mean, it's definitely not exclusive to males though either, what you were saying earlier. Just to back, I feel like that is like the ultimate struggle of everyone, is being able to communicate their emotions. And I definitely feel like as an actor, I don't know if it's my job to fully understand all emotions so much as it is to like allow for all emotions, and kind of accepting the validity of all different emotions, even if it's like apathy or I don't know, anything. Everything's a valuable experience.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if it's about understanding them though. Sometimes it feels like when it's done well, it's more about spontaneously accepting them as they come.
Yeah, I think that's great, because we don't have to understand them all. I think it's more important for me, I guess, is like understanding how this character might process their feelings or what they might physically do in this situation. Like this, this character, okay, I don't have to understand it, but I'm like, okay, maybe this is a character that's a bad guy that gets angry all the time. So if he has feelings, he's probably going to lash out physically or be intense. So I want to make sure that I'm intense in this scene, or if there's anything around me, I might need to grab it. But I've learned that I guess you're supposed to communicate to your team when you do this, because like it scares the shit out of people, because I'm naturally intense. And like I was shooting a music video like a couple weeks ago, and I grabbed like a baseball bat and started swinging it. And I didn't tell the cinematographer before we started shooting that I was going to do that, and he was freaking out.
Yeah, he's probably, get away from my expensive ass camera.
He was like, "Whoa, bro! I didn't know
Wait,
you
how
were
insured? What's your
baseball
insurance look
bat."
like, homie? Yeah.
Oh man. I need to be clear here. I don't like dialogue. I fucking don't like dialogue. I like improv. I just want to improv.
Well, when you do dialogue well, it should feel improvised.
That's
Why does having words prohibit?
It doesn't. I guess I feel like I just don't like a lot of the writing that I haven't acted a lot. So first of all, I feel like I haven't really worked on a script. I think it's because I haven't found like a script that I really love, that I feel like is a great writing it. And then I feel like I wouldn't need to, and I'm not trying to talk shit about Nick Hansen or me, because we were on our own script. We were kind of the writers. And then we did have someone else who helped write our show, The Groomsmen. But I don't know. I just feel like a lot of times writing, I just don't like a lot of it. I'm just like this. I just feel like it's not what the character would say. I'm like, this isn't what my character.
So unique. Most writers are just full of confidence, charisma, and very sure about everything they pen. Yeah, right. That is like, to write is to like, I don't know, second guess and consider. It's just like, there's just a point where you agree to stop second guessing and editing and considering. And you're like, and I think, a good actor can see that the words are just, as my favorite acting coach says, the words are the signpost to the behavior. And that can guide you through a very improvisational way of working if you're working off the other actor and you're allowing whatever emotion comes to mind. And some days it might be more dark and angry, and some days it might be lighter, but I think just like almost giving yourself up to the words and the moment at hand is like such a wonderful process and so hard to get right. Like it feels kind of like free falling, like you're just base jumping.
No, that's a great analogy. I never thought of it that way.
Ta-da.
So you have an acting coach and you currently teach.
Yeah, I've been working with kids like all summer we have a week and I get a morning group and then an afternoon group, and we write just a basic like 3-part 3 scenario or 3 scene play, and they learn some songs and dances, but I just use that as a vehicle to kind of get to the heart of what it is when we're acting and work on that and teach them. They're a ton of fun. Yeah, I started teaching about 2 years ago, and it's been really really interesting, really invigorating, but it also has led me to this theory about working creatively and how to strike a balance. I have no idea about like work-life balance. I have no interest and no idea in having that, but my
That's a real
work
thing.
balance. What'd you say?
Work-life balance isn't a real thing. Actually, what I've learned about, I have a book review that I actually did that it's going to be released called The One Thing. And it's about how your work life, your work is your mastery and craft. And that always comes first. And then the second thing is just learning how to counterbalance your work with some life stuff. It's never fully balanced, but just, okay, what do I need to do? Because I have to put this first: mastery, skills, knowledge, love, passion. That's what I want to do with my life. That always will come first. That's where success comes. But then it's just finding pockets of how you can counterbalance that to make sure you don't burn out. And it's going to be different for everyone, whether you're a family or maybe you're single or you're in a relationship or whatever it is. Like everyone's a little different, or what you like to do for fun. Maybe like you just counterbalance that. So you make sure you're taking the time away from that so you don't burn out.
But I don't really worry about, I right now currently don't think I could burn out. Like if
So
I have,
you're me.
like I don't, I
I'm
feel
just
burnt
like,
out.
fuck burning out. I'm gonna go hard,
Like,
baby.
honestly, fuck work-life balance. It's overrated right now, but I just want to
Yeah.
work, which is great. I mean, that brings me joy. But I think when you work creatively, it's important to have kind of like a triangle setup of balance where you're working on your own creativity, your own stuff. A lot of that involves like my own study, my own scene study, my own classes, my own creative projects. And then there's working for someone else who maybe is a little bit older, has a little more resources or a different point of view. Someone who's not quite a peer, maybe, who's like a little more mature or has some other experience. And then working with people who are younger and going to be around longer than you and working on the craft after you're gone. And for me, like creating that kind of triangle of balanced work has been like the healthy diet that somehow I can work 60-hour work weeks, still feel motivated.
Yeah, you're actually practicing the law of 33%. So the law of 33% is that, this is great that you brought this up. So what, if you don't know, people, the law of 33% is this. First of all, we're all equal. No one's better or less than. But the law of 33% says 33% of the time you should be around people that are 5 to 10 to 15, 20 years ahead of you, or 50, 10x ahead of what you want your life to be, aka your mentors, teaching you, teacher. Then another 33% should be around people that you would consider your peers, that are similar area of your life with similar goals and passions, where you're all helping each other. And then the other 33% is where you should be teaching other people, hence children, or could be even someone similar age, or maybe it's a little younger, where they're 5 years behind you, or 10 years or 15 years, maybe where you were when you were 12 or 15 or 20 or whatever, and you're mentoring them. So you're always in this space of either teaching or learning and collaborating. And I also believe, like, it's not a perfect 33, but it's just like you're living that whether subconsciously or you consciously have done that on purpose. I think you just described a perfect example of how to find, quote unquote, success in terms of optimizing relationships and finding love in our life through being around other people that have similar goals and passions. So I'm very aware of that. And that's what I found success in my life is when I actually do that. And that requires humility, the humility to learn and the humility to teach and the humility to work with others when they might be tough, and not having ego where you think you can do it on your own, or not having ego where you can't work with someone who's just maybe not difficult to teach. And it like really forces you to grow and learn. And I think it's because you have a film background, and I just haven't found another art form that as collaborative as filmmaking.
I'm going to disagree.
Well, what would you say is more
I
collaborative?
think theater is by nature more collaborative. Like I'm fortunate in that I get some production work, I get some acting work, I get some work in casting, which is really fun, first AD work. So I kind of like have a bond with both ends of the camera, but most sets are more disconnected than an actor would be with their stage manager or their director or someone doing the costuming even.
Okay. That
Like
makes
you,
sense.
I feel,
Sorry, keep going.
I just think I feel it's more, we're all kind of more strings of the puppet in theater versus in film. It can be very like I won't meet or bond with half of the cast even in a film.
And I don't think it has to be that way, but I get what you're saying now. So I guess what you're saying is theater is more intimate in that way, which I guess when I say filmmaking, I guess that's very similar to filmmaking to me. It's just like, it's the same thing. You're trying to share that, but I get what you're saying. And I think that's because my point is, I think it's because filmmaking is rooted so much now in money that it's like, okay, we got to shoot everything in fucking 12 days. So that way you don't get the time to be intimate. Like in theater, you're practicing for months and months, and then you're doing you're doing it over and over live. And I think it's because of that intimate space that you share versus film. Like you're saying, it's like, you don't really get to share that a lot of times, unless it's like a really actor that's like your supporting role that you're in every scene together or whatever. Like, I agree. I think it's like, it's just so rushed, like just filmmaking sometimes, because it's money and you got people on the clock and you got a budget and you got to do this. Like, it just seems like it's a super rush nowadays. And that with more and more films being produced in more of a business sense, it's kind of taken away from the artistic, intimate experience, like you're saying, in theater.
It is like a little magical bubble. It's like we blow a bubble and then it's like, oh, it's beautiful, the colors, and then it pops and becomes something else. So it can feel like you guys are isolated for a intense burst of time and energy. But in theater, it's like you have that collaborative rehearsal space. So there's something about the vulnerability of coming into a project and building the ideas as a team and finding things and experimenting that vulnerability and the creativity, and that kind of creates something that I think film is in some ways an evolution of that, of course, but it just doesn't have that slow intimacy. It has like it's hot and heavy, right?
Yeah.
Moves on quick, but then theater's like, fuck, marry, kill, I guess.
But if you take away, so besides the film and theater, then I feel like there's nothing that comes close, right? Would you say you agree with that? Like, what outside of theater and film, like, okay, like music is really intimate, but it's not really as collaborative, even if
music is incredibly collaborative and incredibly intimate, and I did do that for years. So if it's,
I'm not saying it's not intimate, but how is it super? I mean, it is collaborative, but it's only like on a 1 to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 person level a lot of times.
But that is it's so in theater and film as well. Sometimes you're really so I think they're all very similar in that it involves listening and responding. It involves storytelling. It involves performance. It involves vulnerability and rehearsal and skill. You have to come in with your scales,
Yeah.
So if it's music, if it's film, and if it's theater, fuck, marry, kill.
Okay, so you used to be into music. So you used to be a musician.
No, I'm asking you, who's your fuck, marry, and kill?
Say that again.
Who is your fuck, marry, kill out of music, film, and theater?
Fucking what sense?
Have you never heard this game?
Step Brothers. Yeah, if you got to fuck one, marry one, kill one, go.
Yeah.
Okay, so marry one, kill one, go. Well, I'm marrying music. because
Marry music. Oh,
it's my obsession. Like I'm a rapper. I
I
like what I do in I learn, I'm aware of this now because like when I'm doing stuff, music is what I want on in the background. It's like I'm always thinking of like what music could go with this. Like I like podcasts, I like listening to podcasts. I love watching movies. I'm addicted to shooting, but shooting films, of course. But like music, I marry, and then I'm gonna fuck film, and I'm gonna kill theater.
got it.
How about you?
That's going on your resume. It's going on your permanent record, everyone. You heard it here. Oh,
That's definitely because like that make it's best. That's perfect for me, man. Because like I love like especially with filmmaking, it's like a high, man. I just like get on this. I don't know what it is about filmmaking. I just like get so high.
and you know what? Poor theater. You don't have to kill theater. It's already dead.
So what's yours? Fuck Mary Kill.
Oh God, I would marry theater. I would fuck music, and I think I would kill film. It's just so corrupt, in the end.
What if we could uncorrupt it though?
I know, I wish we could. I don't want to kill any of them, honestly,
I
but
know. Me neither. Me neither.
It's Sophie's choice.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thanks for playing.
Thanks for playing. But on the Moral of Nation show, ladies and gentlemen, we don't believe in killing. But that was a very hypothetical, metaphysical,
I think people will understand.
Different universe question. What would we do if we had to?
If we had to. Of course, we won't.
If I was a Buddhist monk, I would say none of them.
None of them for any of them, right?
Yes.
Good thing I'm not a Buddhist monk.
What?
Good thing I'm not a Buddhist monk.
You're not?
No, just a noisy woman from New Jersey. They're very similar. Common mistake.
I think you're on your path to enlightenment, though.
Well, thanks. We'll see.
So, tell us about your origin story. Tell us about who you are and what has got you today where you're this teacher, actor, writer, producer, theater, filmmaking, music, coffee connoisseur, enlightened Buddhist. Like what has got you? And you don't have to say anything. You don't have to share anything you don't want to, but I believe in being vulnerable and authentic and sharing your story. And that's how we can connect. So like, if you could tell us and me and the audience, like what do you think has made you become the person you are today and like where you came from and how you evolved into this person?
Oh, I don't know. I come from a big family, big Irish East Coast family, and it's just like a shit ton of women, and they're all really smart, really opinionated, really I find them to be people who seek spirituality. I think they seek what's moral and right and just, and they all have a backbone and a sense of humor. So something about just being of those people has been a really integral part of who I am and always have been. Like, I don't remember like becoming a person that I feel like I've always been really consistently and more so and more so and more so myself.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that. I think everybody kind of feels that way, maybe a little bit. They just are, I'm just me. And it's kind of weird and funky, but anyway, I have a really close relationship with my mom and my sisters, and I grew up with them, obviously. And my older sister's like this really beautiful, gentle, insightful, funny, grace-filled person. She's not like your typical older sister. She's like, yes, I bathe you in a cloak of love and light and safety. And my mom was getting her master's growing up, and she's a speech pathologist and working full time. And so Emily did a lot in terms of influencing me. And I think she gave me maybe a little sense of an inflated ego sometimes, but she was very shy. And my younger sister, Marie, who is like just a really complex thinker, really intelligent, incredibly introverted at first, and really, as a kid, kind of like hilariously antisocial. Like I remember her turning to one of our mom's cousins at a family reunion, he scoots into her and she's 3 years old and she has like an eye patch and giant glasses and she looks up really angry and scoots away from him. And he says, "What's the matter, Marie? Don't you like me?" And she had to like strain her head because of her little eye patch. And she goes, "No." So suffice to say, from an early age, I became like the spokesperson for my sisters because that was the role that I fell into. And I don't know if that's partially why I love storytelling, but I also had just some really early difficult experiences in my inner family dynamic in terms of the way my parents split up and some of the fallout from that.
Did they
So,
divorce?
yeah, and then some, but for a long time. So I kind of grew up with this sense of coming from a dissected place. And I think learning to deal with that storytelling was a really big part of that for me. Like I started journaling when I was 7 and I can barely write. It's like I have all these stories about me being in trouble or, like I'm like highly, it's like you can barely read the lettering, but I just so badly needed to tell stories.
Yep.
And I don't remember a time where I didn't reach that as like a really big outlet. So, and I also connected with my sisters that way. They always wrote and painted and read poetry and discussed like art and music with me. And I think the three of us kind of formed this really tight coven-like bond around the arts. And we all kind of have our different ways in which we use them to express. And they grew up to have artistic careers as well. And I'm really proud of them. My older sister's an art therapist and she has her own business. And my younger sister was nominated for 2 Emmys. She won one. And she's a news producer. So
Well,
I think,
sorry to interrupt, but I think you touched on a good point. So I think art is rooted in therapy, and like you mentioned journaling and you mentioned your sister's an art therapist. And like for me, art started off as therapy and coping. Like I understand, like my parents divorced when I was little. So I understand what it's like to have a dynamic in the home where your parents and your mom and your dad don't have a healthy dynamic. And then they separate. And then like I talked about that in one of my first episodes about how that has a negative impact on the child, because one of the most important things about having two parents in the home is those parents showing their children what love and a healthy relationship looks like. They're doing it through just the kids seeing that. And I never had that. So I didn't know what it was like to see two people having a healthy dynamic in relationship. So I had no baseline of trying to compare what I should and shouldn't do in relationships, A, and then B, I didn't learn about this until I got sober. I didn't know how to cope with that and other things going on. So I started using drugs at an early age. But once I got sober, I started journaling, like you said, and I learned that art is really at a core therapy, a way to cope, a way of coping mechanisms, and a way to deal with emotions therapeutically and not a self-destructive way. So I definitely can relate to what you're saying. And I think that's a great reminder that it's a very healthy thing to do. And I think a lot of people don't realize that if they started doing that, it would help them. So.
Yeah, the big thing about journaling is like you're first admitting to yourself. And we were talking earlier about art and allowing for whatever emotion as valid. I think that's kind of like the home base for my permit, allow, and accepting space originally. And, now I'm 36. I'm not upset about my parents' divorce, but I think without those tools early on, that thankfully my mom was smart enough to offer us, I don't know. I mean, maybe I wouldn't be. And there's a lot of love in my home growing up for sure. And I wouldn't change any experience for the world, but I don't think my parents were able to do that, to offer a model of what love looks like together. And I'm glad that they split up as a result. I think there was a lot more love in my home for the separation, albeit painful.
Because it can be toxic if two parents are together and they just stay together for whatever reason, because then the kids begin to see only negative things of a relationship. And then they begin to, we just are creatures of copying our environments or being heavily influenced. It's hard to not be influenced by your environment, especially as a children when you're vulnerable. So I think that even though divorce is painful, I do believe, like you said, that it's probably better for the children if it can get a lot worse. I just think that's way worse when you hear stories of kids of so much traumatic PTSD from just living in a home where the parents got more and more abusive, whether extremely verbal or extremely physical or extremely neglect because their parents are just not there or whatever reason. So that's cool that you're aware of that even though it was painful, that it led to more love in your upbringing.
Trauma, I have this theory about trauma. Trauma is a natural part of life. I mean, birth is trauma, right? So the reason we take our first breath is because we haven't felt cold. We've been in the womb and we're shocked. We feel cold for the first time. So that shock is physical trauma, and our body reacts by us taking our first breath. I mean, that's beautiful. And then we go on from there, right? I mean, it doesn't always get easier. So I have this theory that trauma breeds empathy and usually humor, because I mean, how else do you really make it through? But I think trauma it's just a natural part of life. We all experience it differently. And what might be trauma for me might be like a Tuesday for you. Everything's valid, like every emotion is valid. And so I just have this theory that trauma breeds empathy. And that's why we want to watch and see and relate to stories, be it comedic or dramatic, that involve trauma. I mean, you're going to have to suffer to play this character. Unless it's comedy, then you really have to suffer, right?
No, I agree with you. I think because if you look at people that have the darkest past, they have some of the darkest humor, but they use humor as a coping mechanism. And that also leads to more empathy because they understand what it's like to truly go through something extremely painful. And I also feel like on the flip side, someone who hasn't gone through as dark of a situation, it doesn't mean that their
valid.
trauma isn't valid. I think it might be just a little bit more difficult for them to realize that and or whatnot, maybe because it's not as deep of a cut. So, but I think it's all valid. And I do think it leads to empathy and humor for sure. For at least in my personal life, anyone that I know, that they usually share that. That's what it leads to.
It's like, I am a middle-aged white woman in the arts in the Midwest. Like, I live, compared to a lot of women in the world, I live on a cloud of like beauty and elegance and blessings. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I mean, I'm not trying to downplay my experiences and the things that have been difficult in my life. I have had things that are traumatic to me, but I also think that's all relative, and my experiences are valid just as much as many other people's experiences, which are probably tenfold. So
yeah, I agree. That's cool.
It's pretty easy out there for us in our dynamic. I gotta say, we have our trials, but
I think that's aware. I mean, that's good to be aware of, like awareness and gratitude. Like you were saying to me, count your blessings. Like, I think it's important to be aware of that, and then also realize that, like you're saying, you're aware. Like I'm aware that I'm a middle-aged white man living in Minnesota, the Midwest. I have everything I could ever ask for. I have technologies advancing. I have a very high quality of life, like compared to 95 to 99% of the world. Like I am part of the 1%, almost like top 1 to 5% of quality of life. I am there. And I think it's important to be aware of that as well. I think that helps us get out of ourself and the trauma and realize that even though we went through some shit, that we have it pretty good and I have all the tools.
Also get your head out of your ass, because things are pretty good right now, right? Like that's how
exactly. So it's like, I think it's because of brainwashing, where we live in a world, specifically with the media and social media, where people and everyone around them, that people, again, getting back to being influenced by our environment. We live in a country in the United States of America that is driven through fear in the media and trying to divide people. And we also live in a capitalistic society where everyone's trying to be like, I forget what the term is, but they're trying to keep up with the Jetsons or whatever, trying to keep up with the Johnsons.
The Jetsons, meet George Jetson. We are trying to keep up with the Jetsons, but we don't have the flying bubbles yet. Like, why aren't we flying through bubbles in the sky to work? We're still in cars. We're trying to.
We're not quite advanced when we get to that phase. Well, I kind of just want to teleport. I don't even want to fly in bubbles, even though that would be pretty cool because you could have your party pump it up.
All your feet are stumping. Yeah.
Have a theme song of your mood. People would be like, wow, that person's happy. Fuck her.
I mean, look, I'm just trying to keep up with the Jetsons. They had a lady robot for a maid. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I would rather keep it.
I think we'll get there sooner than later. I think Elon Musk is going to be the person that makes it happen. So put some money in Tesla before that happens.
Ugh. Ugh.
But I think that's important to be aware of, that's awareness, that's gratitude. And a lot of people lack that. And I'm guilty of this. It's fear, it's ego, it's allowing my environment to influence me. And it's not easy to do what I'm talking about, but it is very simple. And you're describing it in a very great way of that. This is the mindset that I need to have to be happy, to be grateful, but also to be aware that I'm allowing myself to heal so I can then evolve into the person that I'm meant to be. Like I need to be evolving. I don't want to be my lower, I call it my lower and higher self. So like, I don't want to be my lower self. Every day I'm either choosing, every moment I'm either choosing, every thought that I base my words and actions off of is either a lower thought or a higher thought. I'm either going to choose one of them and be that. So it's not good or bad. Like Hamlet says, only thinking makes it so. But like, I really want to be my higher self. And I think that's what the universe or God or higher power, or whatever it is, that's what I believe we're all meant for, is to become our higher self. And what we're talking about right here, I think that's what we can do that through art.
I just think that it's a false narrative to believe that you become a higher self. What I think is that you build in your habits and it's always a struggle in some way, like just like with for me, like exploring acting, there are times where I'm like, oh, I'm really tense in this area or I'm really weak in that spot. And then you fix it and then some other hole develops, right? It's infinity. And I
Yep.
think that just try for me, like, I'm sorry, I just feel like I'm shouting on Zoom. But for me, what how I'm forgiving of myself is I try to look at it lately like you make a choice every time. And
Yep.
sometimes you behave like a afraid or jealous or angry person. And that's going to happen sometimes. Like it's going to fall through the cracks sometimes. But if you just keep trying to make good decisions, good actions, good choices, then you'll have new, greater things to work on in yourself. But I just don't think that you ever totally reach that higher self in this world where you're never afraid or angry or jealous or reactionary. I don't know. I don't think that those things never come into your orbit. And I don't mean you, I just mean the general you. I think it's just a daily practice. Like just for today, I'll be like this and then I'll fuck it up and then I'll try again and then I'll say I'm sorry and then I'll be embarrassed. And, I don't know what I'm
No,
saying.
yeah, I agree with you. That's exactly what I mean by that, though, is I just describe it as lower self and higher self, and becoming that is what you just described, because when you do that, it happens less and less. There's no end game, there's no destination. It is infinite. So where everything you're saying is correct, I'm just saying is to consciously strive to always go for that higher self. And from my experience, that happens less and less. But we're human, so it's never going to go away, right? Like you're saying, fear, anger, fucking life doesn't stop. But like,
Yeah,
this is like the spirituality of, I believe, just like finding myself is like the difficulty of doing that over and over, and
totally.
not just saying
Totally.
fuck it, because it's so much easier to do that, to just get in that rut where you're just not evolving and growing, because like you keep having these things happen and you want to stop, or you want to give up, or you just want to avoid. Like for me, it's avoidance. Like I want to avoid that stuff that you talked about, like drama and problems and anger. Like I just wanted to avoid it. So it's like it forces me to deal with it. And like, but you're right though. There is no end game. There is no destination. It's just the infinite experience
Doing work.
constantly that we're
Right.
just
You're like,
having emotions. But it's like, but that's the lower higher self. Like, what am I going to do with that? And my lower self is not deal with it and not evolve. My higher self is learning how to work with that and evolve and grow and not go to self-destructive behavior.
well, I also think it's part of like the hills and valleys of life. Like, sure, we might struggle, whatever, but there's going to be some days where somebody rips off your car, your boss is being like this and that, and eight things happen. and you're stressed, and it's like these hills and valleys where you're like cry because you don't know how to eat a pomegranate. No one ever teaches you that for some reason in home ec. Like they're really surprisingly deceptively weird, but you're going to have those days where you get drug further down. But I feel like the peaks and valleys are much better than that open plain of this mythical place where you don't have to do the work. Like the work, like, I don't know, it's like part of like the joy of melancholy and the flatness of, I don't know, contentment. Like we need the struggle. That's what being alive is to reach for something and have it be just out of your grasp.
That's what it means to be human.
Yeah, that's like the best part.
It is the best part, but that's also the point that I like to bring up is what we do in those situations. It's not that those don't happen. It's like our higher self is, what do I do? What actions do I take? And do I go snort some cocaine and freaking go to Thailand and say fuck it for 90 days and never make it back? Or do I,
Now I have never done that, but now I'm thinking, wait.
Not saying it's wrong. There's no right or wrong here. It's just understanding is what conscious human, like I believe a conscious human being, a conscious society, when that stuff happens, we do stuff to heal us, not increases our hurt, self-destructive behavior. Like that's the difference. You describe perfectly the life of what happens, but the key is, and the point I'm trying to make is, our higher self will consciously, and a conscious human being will take that event, but they're not going to do something that causes more damage to themselves. And a lot of times as humans, we do stuff that causes more damage, like emotionally eating fast food, or whatever, drugs, binge using drugs, or binge drinking, or gambling, or whatever, any other behavior that leads to more destruction. That's the key point, is what do we do in those moments? And I hope that living through love is learning how to take healthy actions that allow us to deal with that in a way where we don't hurt ourselves more. It's about ourselves. We don't want to hurt ourselves more.
Or just even like that instant, like trying to have more forgiveness, which is why I like to look at it as that never ending kind of journey. Because a lot of the times when I want to push that like eject button or burn it all to the ground, when I want to act out in those ways, it's because I feel I've already made a mistake and I don't just have simple forgiveness for myself. Like, oh, you said something dumb at a party. Well, okay.
Yeah, like, forgiveness, be able to quickly forgive yourself. I think that's the key here. For me, that's what works. I can quickly forgive myself. And this is what ego is, and fear. Like that's ego and fear, is like we can't forgive ourselves. We hold on to this event, this feeling, which really it doesn't even exist anymore. It happened, it's gone. It does not exist, because the only reality that exists is this moment here and now. And then we don't know how to forgive ourselves. Like I couldn't forgive myself for years for my addiction, and for my years for neglecting what I could have done to help my mom before she died. Like I neglected her and I only cared about myself. And there's a million things I wish I would have did differently, but I couldn't forgive myself. The moment I forgave myself was the moment I opened up that door to be able to heal and grow and not sit there. And it can be the littlest thing. I've seen people self-destruct their life from not allowing themselves to forgive. So, I mean, that's just such a key point, to forgive ourselves. And if I can't forgive myself, how am I supposed to forgive you?
I didn't do shit.
You, in a sense of whoever I feel harmed me.
Right. No, yeah, it'll definitely take you down. It's the chain around your neck for sure.
So you started getting into art, and then as you grew up, as you're getting older, tell me more about as you got into, like, you're growing in your teenage years in high school, or if you went to college, you went to film school, like what then as a child you started using art with your sisters, and then what happened? What led you to, when did you decide you wanted to do this for your life? Or maybe
started using young with the sisters, and then it was just gateway from there. Yeah, so I did a lot of stuff throughout my younger years in high school and everything, and but I found all my friends were going away very responsibly to school and being very studious students to learn their way to be. And for whatever reason, I was just like, for the first time in my life out of high school, like a total fuck up. Like I had worked 3 jobs, done 5, 6 shows a year, like only studied and taken all these classes outside of school. And I had no identity beyond that.
Mm.
Right. And I don't know if that's even true. That's dramatic. But I think that I struggled with the quick grow up, be an adult who takes the classes and does the things and falls in line. And I remember being like desperately afraid that I was going to go to school, incur this debt, be a clerical assistant somewhere, fail, 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 fail. I was desperately afraid I wasn't good enough. And I didn't know how to be an adult. So anyway, I kind of just dinked around and lived in Philly and like, you know, dated some hot Italian guy and like uh this was like a young adult. And I remember writing a lot at that time, but being really isolated from like my creative expressive self. I didn't feel free. So anyway, I moved out to the Midwest after a few years in Philly, and I moved into the artist co-ops like right away. And there were no young women my age at all. I was maybe 22 or 23. And I just got involved with like the little creative pockets of people and started to find myself again in that way. And there's something about just like doing a two-man show at Bryant Lake Bowl for the Fringe Fest. And like there was suddenly unlimited freedom because I wasn't in my own backyard. And there's such a range of opportunities to be creative and to build your own house in the Midwest, so to speak, creatively. And it took me probably like 10 to 12 years to really get on my feet and feel like I'm a working artist. I have, you know, I have means, I can take care of myself, I can provide, and I can have a vision for my projects and choose them. But I'm really, really grateful to this environment that I found because I just don't know that I would have the same resources if I were on the East Coast. And I think there's something to be said for, yeah, getting out of your own backyard and getting out of your own head and just jumping into the work. But
Mm.
I needed to take a less conventional path. And I'm glad I did. Like I value education, I value degrees, and it's not that I haven't studied and taken classes, please.
Yeah,
But
you just don't need to go to college necessarily and get a degree to learn. You can do that through, like you said, more just doing and mentorship, and you could still take classes, but you don't necessarily need to take out a bunch of debt to learn how to be an artist. Specifically with art, like it's not needed. Like you just mentors and just do it and create and practice and fine tune and read books and take.
yeah, yes, be bold, experiment, find people who have similar philosophies. Go be around a luthier who lives down the hall for 10 years and some crazy guy who like makes, I mean, this is like that being around that environment of like diverse artists of different and varying ages, and just even seeing how they operate as a business, as an entity, as someone who generates creativity and joy in themselves was like way more instructive to what I needed for my life than just going to university with a bunch of pretty young ingenues. I mean, that's never going to be the type of story that
It's not your story.
It's not my story.
And here's the deal. You touched on some key points. One, like they say, like you go to film school just to get the gear, and you go to music school just to get your access to the studio. So it's like, and now it's easier than ever. You can make music in your room and make film on your phone. So it's like, it's really more common. What you describe as unconventional is actually going to become conventional over the next 5 to 10 to 20 years. Less and less people are going to be going to school specifically for art because the value of that piece of paper in education, the lifetime value of that is way down compared to 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So it's not that college is bad. It's just, you don't get a good ROI on it anymore. You described a way where you could get zero debt and have a way better ROI and a way better experience. And then I also think you touched on, from my experiences, leaving, you don't have to, but I do believe leaving your environment sometimes and going somewhere else is the greatest way to learn and to grow and to get out of fear. And I think from my experience, that is super key. And then also, like you were saying, learn how to build like a bunker wherever you're at and create like this environment where it's like, okay, I'm out of my old environment. I got new places, new people, new things. I'm excited. It's tapping into my own creative freedom because I don't feel trapped from old relationships or people or places and things that aren't inspiring me. And then you can kind of just build this bunker of where now you could like learn how to grow and cultivate that, and then build a base where you're describing now. What I feel, I'm in the same place where I'm like, I know myself, I know my vision, I know my mission. It's just time to execute, show up and execute every day. And that's when the results really come in, is becoming from a dreamer to a visionary. The only difference between a dreamer and a visionary is execution of the plan or the idea. And I feel like that's what you've described as you've gone through that to get to this place. And I think it's important to not judge ourselves on our path and the timeline. So I think that's really important. And then also people have a misperception of time. Like I fucking feel like my life is just starting. Like I feel like my best art is, I'm not even at level like 1 to 10. I'm like at level 2. Like I feel like it could be
Oh,
another decade before I get to my best shit. And I like maybe my 50s. Like I don't fuck, like I feel like I'm just starting. And I
100%.
think a lot of people as artists, like, well, if you haven't blown up by 30, you might as well go back to a 9 to 5. And I'm like, get the
It's like
fuck out of here, man. Like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to think like you think, man.
it's
Like,
like
get out of
have a
here, man.
Xanax, okay? I'm just like living. I just have like a cute little 1-bedroom apartment. Everything is fine. Like I can live a normal lifestyle and be an artist.
Exactly. And then I think also, sorry,
How are
I
you
don't
at your HR job, Brad?
So I think the key that you described is, what is defined as success? Success is happiness and waking up and doing what you love. And to me, and being able to provide for yourself, which is exactly what you are doing and what you described. Therefore, you are someone who's already way more successful than 99% of people, because 99% of people wake up and fucking trade time for money doing something they hate. They absolutely hate. I have a server job. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand it. Like I think you've told me you work in the serving industry, and I talk to a lot of people in the serving industry, and they like a lot of it. Well, not necessarily that job itself, but I talk to a lot of people that are doing it part-time, and I go, oh, well, what do you do outside of this? And they describe that either they're going to school or they have a job they don't like the job, or they're going to school for something they have no idea what they're going to school for, and they don't even know if they want to do it, but they're doing it. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't make any sense to me. They actually enjoy their server job, which is not the greatest job in the world, but they enjoy that more than this other shit they're doing. And I'm like, why are you spending all this time doing that? Like, so I think it's important that we're aware of that. And when you talk to people, it's crazy how like 90% of people aren't waking up. 90 to 95% of people aren't doing it. So you're already like winning big time. Like hashtag fucking winning, hashtag success, hashtag killing it.
Hashtag killing it, crushing it, living life, loving it.
So you got to this path, this unconventional path, as you would describe, which I think is amazing because it gives you more value to show people that are fearful to make the jump that you did. Because what you're doing, what you described, 99% of people won't do. So your story that you just described should inspire people to be like, listen, I did this unconventional thing. Whether you did it all consciously or subconsciously, doesn't matter. You did it, and you do.
Yeah, it's conscious. It's emailing. It's paperwork.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
it's like you are doing it. So like you're coming on this podcast and sharing this, and the more you share your story on other podcasts and you talk about this, like I think it's important for people like you. I'm super grateful to have you on the show, because like we need artists to show that like you can do it. You can be happy. You can provide for yourself. But I'm sure you can share there are sacrifices that you have to make, whether it's time, whether it's maybe not living as bougie as someone might want to live and have a Ferrari or like a 5-bedroom house. Like I
Yeah,
think it's important to understand the sacrifices that people make, because people will say that and they'll hate their life, but then they won't be willing to be like, you can let go of all of that if you're willing to live in a 1-bedroom apartment and not drive a Ferrari or a Mercedes. Do you think you're willing to do that? And I think that's the illusion that people are caught in, that they're unwilling to let go of this illusion of these things that they trade all this energy for, when they realize if they fucking do it, they'll be free. Like you just described, they will be absolutely free waking up, and they won't give a fuck about that stuff. It won't matter because they're doing this. They have their bunker and they're living through their love and their passion. and all that shit on the side. I'm like, why did I even care about a Range Rover in a fucking big house? And he
Okay,
died.
well, I do care about a Range Rover. Come on, I'm not a monster. I
Okay,
love
well,
any Jeep style. Like I would just have like a nicer Jeep than I have. Like I have everything that I would have except for just like a nicer Jeep.
you're simple. Yes, but see, but you're also willing to understand that doesn't mean you don't want that, but you're willing to sacrifice until you're able to get that. You're not like, you're not stopping your passion and your path because you'd rather choose to have a Range Rover now. And then now you're not being able to do what you want to do. That's the whole, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't mean you don't want a Range Rover. It's bad to have a Range Rover, but you're
Yeah.
like waiting to get a Range Rover until you're nominated for an Emmy or Academy Award. And you roll up on the Range Rover.
Yeah, obviously that's not the plan. But I mean, yeah, like you save. I agree. I obviously not. I don't care more about the Range Rover, but there are for sure sacrifices. I think I don't know. I think there are sacrifices, but they've never, yeah, there are sacrifices.
But do they seem like a sacrifice to you? Because to me, it's not even a sacrifice. You get what I'm saying? Like when you really love something, to me, it's not even a second guess. It's almost like when you, like if you're in love with anything, whether it's a relationship or a passion, like when you're in love with something, it's not even a fucking question. It's like, no, I'm sacrificing. Get the fuck out of here. This is what I'm in love with. It's not even a question. Like it's not even, what else do I need to do? Like what could I be doing more? What more do I have to sacrifice? I'm not going
Yeah.
back. I'm not going back. That's not an option. Like, that's not what I'm in love with. I'm in love with this. So this is what I'm doing no matter what. No, you have to kill me to stop me.
Yeah, I like that. That's so funny. I'm so that way. I like, I don't know how to stop. I do it compulsively. I don't know that, like, I guess I could have more long-term stability in some ways if I signed up for some kind of regular career. Um, but I don't even know that for sure. That's like a hypothetical. What career is it? Am I a nurse? That's pretty risky right now. God bless them. But I'm just like, I don't know. It's new earth. So I don't know that I did choose something that's so unstable if I'm able to provide for myself and provide for myself joy. Like I don't know what could be more valuable, but I don't have it. Like I compulsively do it. I had a day off for the first time in 3 weeks and I'm like, oh, let me go see a play. And I'm like, wait, I don't do anything else. So my first instinct is like, oh, go see this weird black box play, Wildwood Theater plug.
You would marry theater, wouldn't you? Yeah, you really would.
Yeah, I really would. I really would.
Well, I think you described joy. That's what success is joy. It's happiness, and I feel like that's what we really, when we find ourselves, I feel like for me, that's why I do what I do, because I get joy out of it. I mean, I really just enjoy it. So it's like, I can't have no other it's just a simple, when you can simply just explain that you really love and enjoy doing something, like that's fucking, you won. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, I guess I sit down and do the work. I guess that's the sacrifice. You sit down and you read something 50 times and you're like, oh man, I don't get this. Or you feel vulnerable, or you learn through experience and you look back at every project and you go, I hate that moment. I mean, there's self-criticism, but I think that just happens in everyone's life anyway. So I fail to see a downside, I guess.
no, I don't see one either.
Yeah, do it.
What are 3 things that you think someone needs to develop in order to be a successful artist, like you described? Successful in a sense, being able to be happy doing what you love and as an artist and providing for yourself. What are 3 things?
That's a good question. Courage over confidence, because confidence is, an elusive thing. It doesn't always serve us in the way courage does. So courage over confidence, I would say. Uh, um, you must need to do it. I don't know if you can develop that, and I don't know if that's a skill, but if you don't need to do it, good for you. You have a hobby. And really, I'm not saying that sarcastically. So courage, a deep, deep, deep primal need. This isn't like I need a Pop-Tart. It's
You
like
have a need to express this and share it with the world.
I need this. It's like I need this for me. And then Oh, just joy for the task. Whatever it is, the most mundane part of the art, if you can find joy in that task, like for me, just like when I first begin, feels like the most daunting, I think. To first begin to read a script, first begin to get impression, first begin to memorize, first begin. That feels like this big mountain, but it's still pretty like, where am I gonna go? Where's the adventures? We're starting in the woods. Where are we going now? There's gonna be a mountain. I can't. I'm afraid of the ocean scene, or whatever it is you're gonna be traveling through. I think if you have joy in the most daunting part of it, those aren't skills. You can't develop them. Those are personality traits that you can develop. But I don't know. I got no advice, I guess.
No, I think courage is key. I think that's one of the big ones.
Mm.
Why don't you touch on, I want to know what you're working on today. So before you do that though, I have to use the bathroom real quick.
Me too.
We're just going to run quick and use the bathroom.
I have to pee also. I always have to pee.
Bathroom break.
Potty break.
Sorry for that, folks. I will throw on the More Love Nation theme song. If there is a bathroom break in between, ladies and gentlemen, I will make sure to throw the More Love Nation theme song on for about 60 seconds or 90 seconds until they're going. Thank you guys, everyone, for listening so far. Sorry about the bathroom break, but Nora and I drink a lot of coffee and we have to go to the bathroom sometimes. It's just kind of the game. We like to stay jacked up. We're not here to support any brand of Starbucks or Caribou or anything, but I will say this. I like my coffee with creamer, and I like it on the ice in the summer. And I like it hot in the winter. So that's how I like my coffee, and I drink a lot of it, and I try to stay jacked up to bring energy to the show. And I hope you guys have been listening so far. And I'm super excited for Nora to start talking about how she brought all these things in her life experience to be able to be an artist where she's a working artist today and providing for herself. And she's going to share about some projects that she's worked on in the past with Hunter, with my good friend APG, Alexander Gutterman, and she's working on a new show called Sins of the Father. And I'm really excited for her to share with you guys those projects. And she also had a great cameo. We interviewed her on our film Heart of Cinema. She played a therapist and she killed it, and she brought a lot of good energy. And I'm just really excited to see more of her work, and I feel like she's just beginning her journey. So I was kind of just talking to the fans, and I told them that we drink a lot of coffee, but we're not here to support Starbucks or Caribou. And then I told them that anytime that there's like a break like this, I'm just going to put on my More Love Nation theme song, because I have like a theme song for the show. So I'll just I'll put that on in the background or whatever. It's like there's a break for 30 seconds.
What? That's so funny.
Yeah, dude, the reason why my show isn't launched is because of my theme song. I'm stupid and hard-headed sometimes. I'm like, I'm not releasing my show until I get my damn theme song. And I actually feel like it's my favorite song and one of the best songs I've ever made. Many people might not feel like that, but it seems like all my favorite art, or specifically the music that I make, is not everyone else's favorites. Like a lot of people like certain songs. I haven't released a lot of music, but I already know that that's just what it is. Cause I don't know. I have a weird taste. It seems like other artists, when people like their favorite songs, I always like the song that's like not the most popular. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I like songs that aren't like typical, which is like, chorus hook, chorus hook, chorus hook, chorus hook. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I like different and weird songs. Who's this?
Gyps.
Gyps?
Gyp. Yeah, my sister's has 2 rescue cats, and this one thinks he's mine. Like, I don't know. I don't even typically like a cat, but his cat's like really soft and silky and massages my shoulders. So I guess I wasn't looking to meet anyone, but sometimes it happens when you least expect it.
Yeah, I mean, he
It really does think he's my
his
cat.
fur off you. Look at his tail. Look at the tail right on your head.
I'm not kidding you. This cat pets me. Hey, Cece.
Like, I'm letting you know that I'm here.
So anyway, this will be in the mix. He's found access to me. This is normal. Like, there's something about being single in your 30s in the Midwest. You're welcome. Cats acquire you. Like, I didn't know that this happened, but I never consciously got a cat, and yet here I am. You know,
it just kind of happens. I feel like being single in your 30s though is great, because I feel like a lot of times when you're in your, I guess not always, some people.
I'm just saying it's my destiny to be a cat woman.
Oh. Well, I mean, if that's what you want your destiny to be, it's what it'll be.
I'm not complaining. Yeah.
I feel like though, being single in your 30s, if you're in a healthy place, I guess, where I feel like for me, it's like I don't give a fuck anymore. Like when you become who you are, you care less and less about other people's opinions, and you have a freedom with like understanding who you are. And I feel like maybe when I was in my 20s, specifically early 20s when I first got sober, like I didn't really know myself. So like being single, I just felt like there was some fear and insecurity a lot more there, versus now that's not there. It's not that I'm like saying I want to be single forever, but it's just like there's a comfortability with like feeling okay with that. And like I feel like we live in a society where a lot of times, like especially if you've been single for a long time, that something's wrong with you. Like you know what I mean? Like it seems like it's more common that if you're in a relationship, things are okay, versus if you're not. Like I don't know, I just feel like that there's a thing about that with our society.
There's
social media.
For women, there's a digestibility, like I don't know what I'm saying there, but there's like an accessibility if you know that you're all wrapped up in a sense. And I think there's also a false, sometimes hopefully not false, but a sense of security in that, or at least a narrative of security and reliability, and like I know who you are as a person. So I don't know. I think there's something that comes off. I know people react differently to women who are partnered versus not, but I mean, it's a lifestyle. I choose my lifestyle. I'm obviously fine with it, but I am not beyond a single lady cat joke. I mean, come on, I don't even have a cat. There's one like on my head. Yeah. At what point are you?
You want to get married someday?
I mean, you can't want to get married before you've met someone, so that's not how it works.
Conceptually though, do you believe in like marriage? Is that something that you like would like to do? Like it's a tough one.
That's a bunch of paperwork and depends very much on the person. If I'm going to be partnered with someone, then yeah, you want to make sure you have their back, like legally, financially, you're making practical reasons, not really the most romantic thing, but I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
I'm a one-woman show. It's
well, I know some people, I don't know. I ask people because some people don't believe, like, I don't want to get married ever. I don't want to do this. And just like everyone's.
We all say we want this and we want that, but then it's like you meet someone and you want something totally different. You can't, it's like, it's just like when you're acting and you're trying to be like, and then I'm going to get angry and then I'm going to be surprised. Like, no, that's not how it works. Because when you walk into the room and someone's like, surprise, you're like, ah, like you don't, what am I saying? I'm saying you don't get to choose how you react to people and how that changes you, how you feel around individuals. If you fall in love with someone, of course, you're going to want to love and take care of them.
Yep. I think that's
key. Can't project
everyone really does want to fall in love. I really do. I feel like
people want to love, of course.
And I think until you've had that happen, I feel like a lot of people, they might not realize it until it happens. I guess it's kind of what you're saying. It's like people can say what they want to say, but until something happens, you don't know. Like it's just like, so I think
don't know.
Yeah. And I think that's good to be honest with yourself and about that. And I think I also feel like it's really important to choose, like, listen, I'm choosing to be single until I find something that caliber. I'm not just going to be like, oh, I'm going to be in this relationship to be in one. I'm going to really, because I think enough people don't, I think a lot of people get in a relationship to feed their ego, and they're not really focusing on building themselves up, always constantly focusing on themselves and empowering themselves and then attracting the right person. Versus, like, I know for me, like, if I was in my previous relationships, I wouldn't be the man that I am today, because all this time I need to focus on myself to grow and become the person that I want to be. And I feel like that's difficult. I'm not saying you can't do that in a relationship, but if you're not with the right person, it's really hard to do that. And I think a lot of people being in the wrong relationship holds them back tremendously. And they're in it because it feeds their ego. Like, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times if we're super dependent on one person, it helps that make that person feel good versus being you focused. Like, to me, love is like, what can I bring to that relationship? Not what can I take from it? And I feel like if you're looking at it from that lens, it's kind of ego feeding. So that's just my own opinion and experience that I've gone through. Doesn't mean it's anyone else's, but I think for me, it's been really important to learn how to focus on myself and love myself and grow to this person that I want to be.
There's just also like something more paced and practical at a certain age than when you are like passionately, irrevocably, for the first time, never before in love. You're like in your 20s and these passionate experiences happen. And I feel like that's when you're like, I will be your wife. And it's this, it's like the biggest thing you've ever felt for a lot of people. I think that's when we experience that, but we're still like, I mean, for me in my 20s, I was like, you will save me. I was like the most codependent, like, please help me make a decision. I don't know who's flying this ship? Like, what? Flying the ship? I don't know, but I like it. So,
you're describing where your relationship was actually feeding the ego of the other person because they felt like, oh, she doesn't know what she wants, I'm going to tell her.
I don't know. I don't want to diagnose and I don't want to look back too deep, but I think.
So you ever been in love then?
I think, of course. God, yeah.
You have?
Of course. Yeah.
I say, of course. I thought I was once, but I haven't been in love. No, because I really believe for me, if it was love, the other person would have reciprocated it. And because it wasn't, it's just lust for me. So I think like for me, I have never been in love because for me to be in love requires the other person to be in love too. And for me, I haven't had that happen. But you're saying
look out, it's coming for you.
What?
I said, well, look out. Be advised.
You're in trouble. It's going to happen at some point.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you're saying you've had that happen?
Yeah, I've been in love. Yeah.
What did you learn from that the most?
That it exists. That, oh my God.
The answer.
Wow. But I've also, my definition of love has rippled over in so many different forms. Like how I feel for my sisters, they're like my soulmates. And how I feel for like my sustaining deep, like spiritual friendships with my homegirls, like who we can bat back and forth and we can laugh and they get me. And how I feel about the babies in my family, like my nephews. Oh my God, I would like jump in front of a train. So there's all these different beautiful big forms of love. And I feel like for me, the way I experienced romantic love was like so deep and rich and passionate and such a calling, and it's amazing to know that can exist. But
you touched on so many key points.
Issue. I do.
Because here's what you touched on. It's so good. It's so many people focus on romantic relationships, and it's like, bro, it's always like when we cultivate love in our life, like on the show, it's about every relationship that we have. It's not just a romantic one. That's what we think of. But like, who in my life, like you just described, your family, your friends, whatever, even it could be your business partners or your students. Like, how can I look at the people that are the core of my life? Are we practicing healthy, loving relationships? And then I love how you said you like jump in front of a train for them. Like, I feel like that in a romantic, what?
Adults, I'm like, get out of the way of the train, dude.
I feel like in a romantic relationship, it's not going to be any different than that. The only difference is you're willing to get naked and have sex with that person potentially versus obviously these other people, you don't feel that way about them. But I feel like at the core of that relationship, it should still be the same emotional soul connection that you describe with your other real family and close friends that you feel that way. So I really feel like it's not that much different. The communication is understanding that's the same. It's like the only difference is like you have a physical or sexual attraction to that individual, but like emotionally, I feel like it should feel the same. And I feel like that's what love is. Like, I feel like if it's way more just the physical and sexual and you don't have that other feeling that you described, like you really love them that way. I just feel like it's
Die
not
or die.
I feel like it's not the same thing. So I think it's and I think this is important because like we could be so confused and tricked because of sexual and physical attraction where we can create and fictitiously try to fic a feeling or love when it's really way more of just the physical side. And I just think it's really important to be aware of all of this because this is the More Love Nation show. And I think people need to have honest conversations about themselves. And I think they should start with themselves and the people close with them before even romantic relationships. Because I think we neglect so many people in our lives and then we think we're going to somehow have a magically great romantic relationship. It's like, well, none of your other relationships are good. So what fucking bring that into your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your partner? Like my relationships, all of them matter. And now, granted, when you get in a romantic relationship, you're going to spend more time and energy with that person because you're their partner versus your brother or your mom or dad. But like, it's the same concept of like, what behavior am I bringing into this relationship? How am I loving them through bringing value and being about them and not just about me, and compromising and communicating and being honest and vulnerable. And like you're saying, showing up if they ask you to be there and they need you. And I just think that's all really important. And I think that's what this show is a lot about. So I'm just super glad that you touched on that stuff. So.
Oh, love. Yeah, it shouldn't feel so different. That's exactly right. It should feel like similar to, with the exception of. Yeah.
Exception of one or two things.
One or two, actually, when you think about it, kind of small details. So that one's simple. Out of all of it, that's kind of the simple part.
Exactly. And even if they're not good in that small detail, they can be taught, they can be helped out, they can be teached.
Yeah, that's right. You got it.
Okay, one little area's not good, but we can teach them. Yeah. We can teach them.
I'm a workshop.
I have a workshop right away. Like this is not going to be dragged out 6 months out. Like, okay, that first weekend we're having a workshop to clarify some things here.
A lot of people had a pandemic's worth of a workshop, so good on them. They've got their private doctorate and masters.
Hopefully. So, the Hunter, Sins of the Father. Let's talk about some of the projects that you've worked on. And tell me a bit about them and your role in them.
Yeah. So The Hunter was originally written as a feature and then eventually broken into a series of episodes, 10 episodes. It's my second project with Alexander Gutterman, who's a writer-director. And I think he's done multiple interviews in the area, but of course you guys know each other. So anyway, this is a project that he wrote a few years ago and we shot it. I was first AD, so first assistant director. What that means for us is that I get to sit in on casting. I get to have some creative say. I did a lot of the set building for different areas, not myself. I mean, people help me build the sets, but I got to arrange things and think about things from a more creative standpoint. He gives me a lot of creative leeway, but I work on his projects from almost conception and then through post-production when I might do some little administrative work, or for example, I'm working to send out some clips to actors this week. I acted in that as well. And I'm like looking back through my stuff and I'm like, oh, I always learn through doing. And it's just like, how is that? It's just so frustrating to look at your own stuff. And I'm editing the reel for that right now. And I love it. I love it. I think it's such a cool story. It's like its own little maze and its own little world. And I love my character in it. I love my scene partner in it. But I'm just like, oh man, I would have done this different. It's like painful to go back through your own stuff. Anyway, I'm ranting. So that's that. I'm currently working on a production called Sins of the Father with Oxford Productions. And that is a really interesting project. So I'm playing Sarah, who's this mother. She's a woman who broke free of a partnership, her husband, some years back, and the film really deals with themes of family and sacrifice, like generational trauma, overcoming, past sins, and whether or not we can really change. So I really like her character. She's always trying really hard. And I think that's such a great trait. So anyway, we're shooting on this crazy gorgeous farm. It's like kind of middle of nowhere. So my plan is to borrow my girlfriend's pop-up and just like become a full squirrel lady in the woods for September, and then go back from set where it's like not too far, maybe camp somewhere around the peripheral, just like a total creeper. This farm is gorgeous. Like the cast is amazing. He's a man. I'm like the boy. The man playing my son is just like brilliant and adorable. And I'm like so excited to be back on set. The last time I was on set full time was when we shot The Hunter, and we wrapped that just before like the Rona descended upon us. So it's going to be good.
So where is this being filmed then?
Yeah, this is going to be shot in Hutchinson, Minnesota, just outside, on like a gorgeous farm that has a beautiful old farmhouse and like these old barns and like fields and everything. I'm excited.
Wow, I'm so jealous. Like I told Nick that I just want to make Westerns and just outdoor movies. I just love filming outside like that. Like there's a physicality. I don't know, there's just like a physicality behind it, and it's more open. I just feel like when you're like inside in like a house or whatever, I just like nature in general. So I feel like it's something that I like, but that's super cool. I'm super jealous. And
yeah,
what is there certain things that you look for when you take on a role? Like
yeah.
like what are you going for? Like, is it something that you're really careful because you want to do dramatic stuff? I know you did because you did like a comedy, like for our film Heart of Cinema, you obviously had the cameo as the therapist. And I feel like you have this natural energy to you and you're witty and smart and intelligent, that I feel like comedy is just something that you would just slay it. Like, I just feel like I already want to cast you in our next film for Heart of Cinema when we do a sequel, like where you're a larger role, where you're like the therapist, and then like Ed and Z keep like getting in fights, and then it like cuts to a scene where you're with one of them, and then you're with it, you're doing therapy sessions.
Maybe I'll give you guys couples therapy.
Yeah, you do like therapy session with us,
like,
and then we keep
but
fighting.
I don't ever realize you guys aren't an actual couple. Like I think it takes a couple episodes for me to realize that you guys really are not intimate, because I'm like, you're in couples therapy.
So it's like,
couple.
I don't know. I just think that would be really funny. I feel like you would kill it. So, anyways, that's just a side vision. I was just like thinking of the second movie of like what to do, and I was like, wait a second, we could have a therapist who's showing the trauma of them like trying to make a movie and keep fighting, and shit's hitting the fan. They start going to couples therapy.
Yeah, I'm here for you guys. I'm here for you guys to create a safe space for you to share with each other. It's not about me. It's about you guys. There's a reason you're here, because you both care. You're both invested, and I want to congratulate you on that.
Oh, you take Blue Cross Blue Shield, or is this private pay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll bill your insurance. So, what do I look for? I look to be hired.
Hey, schmofo.
No, because it's like, I don't know. You can only bring the skills you have at the time, and you can only bring your very best. And I'm going to do better at some projects than others. So I look to be hired. I look to do it. I'm like a crackhead. I'm addicted. So pay me to get me on set. Like, that's what I want. I want to try everything. I want to do everything. And then I want to work. I had a girlfriend ask me recently, so like, what do you want? What do you really want for your future? And she bought a farm and has these beautiful children. And, it's like she has her life. And I guess she was like, so what you getting up to then, you know? So none of that for you. Okay. And I just was like, I just want to work. I just want to work. And then I want to work. And then I want to get some work that's like other work. And then I want to do that work too. And then later, I want to swim in the ocean, and then I want to work. And then I want to go on a trip with my camping club, hashtag grandma camp. And then I want to work. That's all I want to do.
What ocean?
You got to go in the Atlantic.
Where in the Atlantic?
Jersey Shore.
Is that your place?
No one's perfect.
No, I love the ocean too. I love the mountains and I love the ocean. Like I'm definitely destined to be. Side note, actually, I don't want to get too far into my, I'll skip it. But anyways, so I just bought a Penske. You know what Penske moving trucks are?
God bless you.
Yeah, I just bought one. I'm gonna turn it into a mobile camper so I could drive it to the ocean and use it as a mobile studio and live in it. Yeah, I swear to God, I just did. I'm picking it up in Kansas City in like 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
I'm driving it back, and my brother and I are gonna pimp it out, and then I want to potentially use it, get more of them and rent them out as Airbnbs as well. But mainly I want to
be a monthly. I will like have that will be my new apartment.
Yeah. You could, you could rent it out too, or you could always buy one yourself. Like I'm literally got one that I'm not gonna live in it forever. I'm probably gonna do it for like 1 to 2 years, and then hopefully by then I'll have a bunch of money, and then I'll just use it to travel around while mobile. But I'd still have a base like in the Twin Cities or whatever. But anyway, sorry, that's a side note. But I want to be part of the ocean part of the year. I lived in Hawaii for a while, so I just fucking love it. It's just like,
you gotta get back.
It's just so spiritual and inspirational. So it's like when you're by the ocean, I don't know, just like walking with your feet in the sand by the water. It's just like, as an artist, like doing that every day, like it just like opens up the pores to just like creativity. So I just feel like
it's the washing machine for your fucking soul.
I know, dude. So it's like I think that's great. I think it's great. So anyways, so you look to get hired, you want to work. You sound like someone who fucking loves what they do. And I just feel like you're going to be a machine, that you are a machine. And I feel like you just need someone to like, whether it's you, like, I feel like you could be like, I see you like acting. Maybe it's not just acting, but just like whatever, working. But I'm just going to say acting because I feel like that's what and it could be producing, acting, writing, theater, whatever realm, but like creating, like just being in tons of movies and plays. Like I just feel like you should be working more. And I think this kind of caters into a post-COVID world, how to, like you were talking about, like as an independent contracted worker, what this looks like in the future. And I think it's important that, like, if that's your goal, which I think you are going to do, that you are doing it, I think you're going to continue to do it because you're just seem like you're more motivated and dedicated than a lot of people. And I feel like that it comes down to strategy and learning how to optimize avenues to do that. And like, I just feel like you'll do that. I think voice acting, what about that? Like, I think animation and voice acting, not saying that you don't want to only do that, but I feel like that's a diversifying our skill sets that I feel like is a way to monetize and create work. I already see it on Backstage. For those of you who don't know, Backstage is like a website platform that you can pay $100 a year, and it has thousands of roles across the United States for anything you can think of, for acting, writing, voiceover, like you fucking name it, remote working. Like it's like, I get emails with like hundreds of leads every week of just like potential roles and potential opportunities.
Yeah, Backstage is a great resource. And then there's also a local to St. Paul, Twin Cities voiceover teacher that I would recommend. Her name is Jessica Mraz. If anyone is interested in looking up that type of trade and building on that, that's something I haven't built on. I'm kind of working on some Irish dialect stuff right now. My studies have just taken me elsewhere, but I think absolutely 100% that market is explosive. And if it's a skill you think you can develop, then go for it. It's on my bucket list, but that's why I'm like 10,000 hours aren't nearly enough to build your skill. There's so much to explore. It's infinity, this art.
So that's all you want to do then, is just perform. create, collaborate. That's your thing. That's what you want to do. And that's your life, right? That's my life. When I'm not doing that, like everything else that I do is kind of just like a purposeful way to get out of my creative obsession and self and just kind of not think kind of a thing. I don't know how, I think for me, like my art is my life, like everything else around that. Like I've realized that I just finally in the last year, I finally started committing to it. Like it was definitely my behavior showed it as a hobby, not as what I wanted to do. But like this last year, I quit my day job and like it's been what I've been doing as a career, like you're describing versus a hobby. And I just think that going back to work counterbalance is just like, okay, that's all I want to do. It brings me joy. I just want to do it over and over and over again, which is what you described. And I think that's just an amazing place to be in. And I just think it's like, okay, what can you do? That's one great thing. But now what does your life look like also when you're not doing that? Because we need some counterbalance. And to you, it sounds like camping and being by the ocean is what you do when you're not working.
Yeah, I kind of like binge. I binge on, like, I feast on a little chunk of time off. And that'll hopefully involve like a camping trip or maybe visiting home or something like that. But then I work. So that's ideal, I think. I like to have, I don't want to have like a day and a half off fighting traffic, Saturday to Sunday to wait in line, to go to brunch, to do all these things that aren't really just my vibe. I'd
Yep.
rather have like a solid week off, go grandma camp, and then go grandma camp. That's my club. And
Oh,
so then,
that's what it's
yeah,
called?
it's my camping club.
Okay. And then you take them camping where?
Anywhere we choose.
Once a year or how often? Twice a year? Three
Oh,
times a
oh
year?
yeah, yeah. All right, a couple times a year for sure.
Oh, wow. Where you guys going this year?
We went, we were like at this little tiny county park in southern Minnesota that was kind of nice. I'm probably gonna get another grandma camp in the next week or two because we'll take the pup somewhere, do a little glamping. Sometimes it's bougie, sometimes it's like a little staycation.
That's good.
Yeah, I'd rather binge on my time off and binge on my work too than feel like I just almost get to relax, but
Mm,
can't really go, can't really travel and explore, you know.
yeah, I like that. That sounds like a good life to me.
Yeah, I think
Like,
you're on the right track, getting over to the ocean.
yeah, I don't know. I just love the ocean. Is just like
Mm.
everyone needs to go visit the ocean someday, whether it's the Atlantic or the Pacific, like whatever, like being by the ocean, like or the Caribbean, like whatever, Gulf of Mexico, it doesn't matter. Just like being by the ocean, that vibe is just like it's and there's some amazing like beaches. I got really spoiled because I was in Hawaii, and then that's not even the best beach in the world. It's top notch, but there's other beaches even that people have said that like in different places that are even more amazing. But I think Hawaii's top 5 beaches in the world, in my opinion. Top 10 for
Absolutely.
sure. Top 10 for sure. Probably top 5 in my opinion.
Now I'm gonna have some like, like when you have like a dream that's like kind of fucked up. Now I'm gonna have like my ocean dream, which is always like I'm trying to get inside I'm like trying to crawl back into the ocean, like let me back in here, guys. I shouldn't have left in the first place. And then like, but I can never quite get inside the salt water, which is like for me, the really like the best part is just to be like floating in the Atlantic Ocean, which is pretty warm, like in the summer, just like real, I don't know, real like washing machiney. It's like really sudsy, really like kind of earthy.
Yep.
So now I'm gonna have that dream. Thanks a lot. That's
A good dream though.
it's like almost in the ocean. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh, oops,
When was the last time you were in the ocean?
the spring. I was trying, my sister's a surfer, so she was trying to teach me. And I almost took out a small child. Thankfully, he knew how to surf and could get away from me. But my surfboard kept like chasing him, like, and I was wildly out of control. It's like the first time I stood up too. I'm like, ah! So it looks like I'm just hunting this small child on my surfboard. He got away. It was too quick. Godspeed, little angel.
Hey, surfing's not an easy. I tried doing it when I was in Hawaii, and I was better at body surfing than actual.
It just turns into me body surfing,
Hey, that's the end game anyways. Just be good at body surfing. You've already won.
Yeah, all the circles lead to all the signs. It's like, are you surfing? You're body surfing. Are you surfing? No, you're still body surfing somehow. Like it always ends in body surfing. The ocean decides where you go in the ocean.
That's true.
Maybe I'm just a poor swimmer, but I love it so much. I keep like almost drowning.
That's not good. I don't want you to drown now.
No, I'll make it. Salt water keeps you buoyant. You don't have to be that good of a swimmer.
What's buoyant?
Buoyant? Like
Oh,
buoyant. Yeah, buoyant means like a lighter buoyant. It's this. It means this, Chester.
salt water kind of holds you up versus lake water versus clear water. I don't know what it's called.
Even lake water.
Lake water.
Lake water.
That's what we got in Minnesota here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got some more few tough questions here that I'd like to ask you that I haven't brought up yet. I would like you to, if you could sit on a park bench for 1 hour, past or present, with anyone in the world and talk, who would it be and why?
Paul Greenhall.
Who's he and why?
He's my special mentor friend. And we growing up used to have these really long, deep, rich talks about anything, about God, about death, about life, about growing old, about love, about spirituality. It was just about stories, about experiences we had, explainable or not. And he was just my really good buddy since I was maybe 7. He'd take me to plays into like this beautiful sanctuary called Longwood Gardens. And we just had a really deep, rich, meaningful relationship for no reason. He was probably in his 50s when I met him, and I was 7. And I think he was trying to make friends with my mom, maybe, but he ended up making friends with me for whatever reason. And he took me and my sisters and my mom sometimes to plays, but really they would all just really, he took me, and him and I just were really, really good friends. He was a writer, and like a spiritual guru for me. And he kind of introduced me to theater in a really deep, rich way. So yeah, I would sit on a park bench with him. Unfortunately, he was not my peer, and he died. He died a few years ago, but I found a letter he wrote me, and I still kind of believe I still believe he's a spirit guide for me. And I just would love to talk with him and like get all the secrets.
That's a good answer. I think we can still communicate with people that passed on. On the More Love Nation show here, I truly believe that when you have real love, that way that you were describing with someone, a soul connection, that even though we physically move on, I believe our souls are still connected, or maybe spirits, or whatever you want to call it, or maybe you don't believe in any of that. You just feel like, but I believe we're connected still in some way. And I do believe that if we open ourselves up, we still can communicate and listen. So I learned that I've gone through my own grief with the loss of my mother. And I think it's important that for me, like I've had a better mindset of an attitude when I feel like, oh, I can still communicate with her and try to, whether it's journaling or just talking at her grave or whatever. Maybe you would go talk to him at a specific place, maybe a public bench or something. Either way, I feel like when I think like that it helps me deal with it more and gives me better attitude and more better perspective. So but I'm sorry for your loss, and I think that's cool that you get to have a connection with someone like that. So
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think I have talked to him in the past, and I feel like I have had pretty clear and specific responses without, going like crazy into it. I've definitely asked for guidance or grace, and I feel like I've received it. So, whatever the truth of that is, or whatever the science of that is, I don't really need an explanation. I just understand that there's something, either some kind of an intrinsic knowledge of what he would want or say, or there's some spirit connection from beyond this realm of existence. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Either way, he's still with me in a sense that I can still rely on him for guidance. So I feel like hopefully it's that way with your mom too. Either way, that love was just so solid that you can still kind of draw from it in a sense. And whether or not that's like really a spirit from the other world guiding you, or whether or not they're literally hearing you, it almost doesn't really matter.
I agree.
So I guess we both get our park benches.
Yeah. Okay, so I got a couple more questions here. What would you describe as your biggest win and biggest loss? You can break each one down separately, and then what you learned from it in your life.
Hard hitters.
Why don't you start with your biggest win?
Yeah, biggest win. God, I don't know. I've had some pretty cool opportunities. But I think my biggest win is kind of maybe tied into my biggest loss. I think that there was a point in my life where I had to make a decision to do it or not. And I decided to do it. And I was very, very afraid. I remember feeling very unsure. And I remember having to make this decision alone, which, if you'll remember the 20s, oh, don't make me make decisions alone. Right. I mean, it's something I always feared, but I think there kind of came a time where I sort of married myself to what I really felt I needed to do. And that meant partially committing to my artwork and partially making some cuts, making some sacrifices, if you will, with some relationships, with maybe where I wanted to live, maybe, yeah, lifestyle choices, people choices. And ever since that decision, I grew up into more of an independent person and a more self-sufficient artist who can make choices and fail. But I don't think I will ever make a choice and fail so hard that I will stop trying. So therefore, I think I'll never really fail. I don't know. I think that's my greatest success. And I know I'm being awfully cryptic and vague, but that's because I just don't want to put forward all these personal details. But suffice to say, there was a very specific crossroads in my life where I made a decision just to do what I need to do to be happy. And that is absolutely pursuing a craft that I'm passionate about, and absolutely like working with other people to pursue it themselves, and absolutely learning from other people. And I'm really grateful I had that courage, because I don't think I always thought I would.
That's a great answer. So you're basically saying that you had a cat to a crossroads in your life that you were going down past, and you had to make a decision where it's like, if you didn't choose you didn't
Meet
choose.
you at the crossroads.
Oh, you know Bone Thugs, man.
Of course.
Bone Thugs.
I love
Bone Thugs are the
Never
best.
miss everybody. I always have riff on that song. I'm like, my brother, my cousin, the dude at the corner store. I'm gonna miss everybody. I'm like, you're gonna miss everybody? I'm gonna miss like 4 people. And one of them might be a cat. I don't even like cats.
That might be their everybody, though.
You're right. You're right. That's such a good perspective.
Oh, okay. So that's but you chose. You had a crossroads, and I think we get there sometimes half a dozen times in our life or whatever.
Right.
But we have crossroads with defining moments where, like, this is what I'm doing. And I think it's important that we choose ourselves. This is not selfish. This is love. Like, love is choosing you over and over and over again. Yeah, that's what love is. And when I say that, not harming people, obviously, because I feel like when you're harming others through choosing us, that's lust. Like, but in a sense where you're not causing harm in your life and you're choosing you over and over again, that is love and that is healing. And that is a great way to answer your biggest win or your biggest loss, because sometimes in that moment that becomes our biggest win, and our biggest quote unquote loss might be what we had to let go to do that, what we might have to what we sacrificed to do that.
Yeah, the different roads you don't get to take. Like you can't split yourself off and go in two different paths. You really do have to, you hit a point where you have to make a choice, and that means some other options are going to fall away. And that can feel like, oh, the loss of possibility can feel like bigger than.
I got an answer to that. I got a solution to that.
So you got a solution?
I'm just doing everything.
Well, I want to work. So I can't work and play and love.
Not all at once. Not all at once. What I'm saying is just like, maybe after 5 years, I'm done acting, and then like I'm gonna just do stand up, or maybe I'm just gonna fucking live on a ranch and fucking ranch cattle, just to show people that you can do whatever the fuck you want, and then every 5 years you can fucking change and do something fucking different, and none of it matters if it's really what makes you happy. I'm not saying you should not like focus on something and commit and finish projects, like I believe in that, but I'm saying like I don't have to define myself that I'm choosing to be this for the rest of my life. Like I love it.
I understand what you mean, be fluid, but I just also think there's a commitment to craft that I believe in for myself and it's never changed. And I'm 36. It's been literally 30 years of this like passion. And I think committing to learning it fully and understanding how to do it well is important part of my spirit journey. So there's other things that I can't,
do during that time.
I can't do
that forever. You could be, but you could, at 50 years old, you could stop the craft and be like, I'm going to fucking do this now.
Oh, it's going to take me more than like, how 14 years? It's going to take me more than 14 years.
I don't know. I feel
like I enjoy it. Can I enjoy it after I get good at it too? Sometime
I feel like in 4 years, you could be the master, and then you have a decade to enjoy it.
I don't know.
But no, I agree. I get what you're saying. More than likely, I'm not. I really can't turn down an acting role. I would be like, okay, like I say this, but then I'm like, you want to go? I'd be like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're gonna go.
All right. You don't have to fucking pay me. I'll pay you $100.
Yeah. I'm gonna go work on a ranch. Like, no, you're gonna go stay on a ranch for a week and be enchanted and wish you were on set.
And then I'm gonna turn the ranch into a set. I'm gonna turn the ranch into a set.
1-800 dial Nick.
That's what it's gonna be. You're right. I would get there, and then we'd start shooting a ranch movie. It'd be like Yellow.
Yeah, and now it's a movie. But yeah,
we're shooting a Western. Come here, click.
You're gonna find the favorite cow. Write him a theme song. It's gonna be the whole situation. You're like, this cow is my spirit animal. I'm going to write him a song. I believe in you.
I don't know what that says if a cow is my spirit animal, but I feel like they're pretty chill animals. So I feel like
actually, I don't think we get spirit animals. I think that's just for native culture. So I apologize. That's a mistake, I think, on my part. I think, I think we don't get it.
Is it? I think
having a connection, fine, but I think that's like for native culture exclusively.
Yeah, I do, but I feel like if I went and I worked for a tribe, and I feel like, I don't know, I haven't got enough. I don't remember if it was just for natives or not, but I feel like who knows? But yeah, I get what you're saying. You don't want to offend native culture, just assume.
Yeah, I'm like, I also understand I don't get one of those, but I think you would write a song for the cattle. Like you'd turn it into your full like art production situation. Yeah. So
supporting role, lead role, you know what I mean? Yeah, I get it. You'd be in the film and you have a name, or she would have a name.
Right. Right.
Non-gender.
IMDb.
They would have a name to be non-gender.
They would be credited on IMDb.
Yeah.
Betsy.
Yeah. So.
Bots.
Okay, so I got one last question.
Oh shoot.
This is the More Love Nation show, and so we're about love. So I'd like to ask you what you do every day to practice love into life. How do you cultivate love in your life? What are some tools that you would say you use to do that? And then maybe also as a second question, like maybe what's your morning routine? Maybe you have an evening routine. Like what is your daily routine that you try to be conscious of, that how you, no matter what's going on, whether you're working or not working, no matter what you're doing, because the outside stuff, what we do doesn't really define us. It's how we do what we do, right? We can be an actor, we could be a teacher, it doesn't really matter. What matters is how I'm doing that. Am I doing that through love? So that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is like how you have this awesome life that you're doing. We have the what, right? We all live through the what, and that's what brings us joy. But like really is like deep within, spirituality and love is an inside job. Like how are you internally bringing that love into your life in today, and how are you practicing that?
Oh, yeah. I will say I don't have the answer to much, but I will tell you one secret. When you can, an afternoon tub is like, just a midday indulgence. And this may be impossible for most people's lifestyles. I understand and respect that. I wake up around 6 or 7. I email, I get it together, right? I do work to my capacity. I might work through even to 4 o'clock or something. And then I just like kind of for a bit, like maybe eat a little too much, and just have a tub. And then dust yourself off, get up, go see, if you can, if your work day's done, go see a friend. For me, I'm going to probably go to rehearsal or do something then my next part of my creative day. And that's great. But I swear to God, just an afternoon tub is like the best. And I'm happy to work a longer day and have that little siesta. I feel like that is underutilized, is that midday, like maybe a meal, maybe a little nap or rest or watching like some stupid videos, whatever helps you, but just like do like a stupid little indulgent thing for yourself, by yourself, in like before dinner.
And for you, that's a hot tub or a bathtub.
Yeah, it's not a cold tub. It's a warm tub. It's an afternoon tub.
Afternoon bathtub.
Yeah. But I love for me, it's like water, all things water. I'm a Cancer sign. I grew up by the ocean. I love water. So in the summer, that might mean I go jump in a lake somewhere, but I usually won't have time for that in a work day. But like just to put some salt in that bitch.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next phase in that mindset is beach house. So then you just go take a jump. You just walk out on the beach.
From your lips to Shiva's ears, I tell ya.
No, you'll be there sooner than you think. Yep. Beach house, right? Then you could just put your toes in the sand and go jump in the ocean quick for an hour and go back to the house, go back into your porch or whatever, and have a nice little good meal. And
I will take a shack on the beach and I will be the happiest. Like all my beaches are welcome to the beach house. Like I will have, it's my greatest dream. I would love that.
It's happening.
It's happening.
It's got to envision it. They say the 369. So Project 369, Nikola Tesla knew this. So I haven't been practicing this. I was doing it every day for a while, but it's like, if you want to manifest stuff in your life, so it's saying it 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times at night, and actually writing it down and then saying it and then closing your eyes for 30 seconds and envisioning what that's like in that reality, but you're saying it in present tense. So you're saying that, so for like that specific situation, you would say, yeah, I live in my dream beach house where I get to dip my toes in the sand in the ocean every day. And then I would say that 3 times and I'd close my eyes for 30 seconds. And then you write it down and you do 3, 6, 9. And when you do that every day, it like creates this concrete vision that you have. And then you're supposed to also write down what is one thing you're going to do that day, at least one thing to get there. It might be save $5 a day. It might be research the best affordable beaches. Like my actually goal, that like what I would do for me and maybe money won't matter in 10 years, but like just buying a piece of land and then driving my mobile truck on there, because that like solves half the problem. It might be cheaper just to get a lot and then you just drive your camper. And then you don't have a house, but like that's for me, like how can I get there quicker? It might not be the house.
Would appreciate anyway.
What?
Land would appreciate anyway.
Exactly. So it's like there's more than one way to skin a cat, but it's like the 369 method is like we owe it to ourselves as practicing love, is having a goal and then we're doing that and manifesting it and not selling ourselves short, because I think we sell ourselves so short that it's not going to happen in every area of our life. And it's like if we already imagine that it's happened already, like it's already happened. Like just think about it. It's really powerful. People think it's crazy and weird, but when you start doing it, I'm telling you, you will feel transformed in your attitude towards it, and it's almost like you're already grateful that it's happened and it hasn't happened yet. It's crazy. I'm telling you.
If you want to get really meta about this,
I'm getting meta.
A thought, an idea has mass. It's weighable.
Yep.
Right. It's of course light, but once you have a thought or an idea, it has mass. When you speak it, of course, it has more mass. It gains in mass in that, sound has weight. And when you think it, speak it and write it down, of course, it has even more mass. So the more mass, I don't know if it leads to anything, but there you have it. An idea has mass. So I don't know. I think that is a plus the argument of manifestation.
Yeah, keep that mass moving.
Keep the mass moving. Keep that mass moving.
And it has to be specific. So like I like have a vision board, like I have a planner and I have a vision board, and I fucking screenshotted a picture of a house on the beach, and I literally cut it out and put it on my vision board that I look at every day. So every day I see a house on the beach and I want that exact house. Like that's the house. Like that's it. Like I don't know how, like I know right now how exactly that's the house? No, but it's there and it's mine and it's happened. It's just not physically, you know what I mean? So it's like having that
neighbors.
What?
I said maybe we'll be neighbors.
Hopefully we can get that's the plan. Like get it.
Build the colony.
Well, the selfish thing is to have it where no one's by me, but I don't want that. I
see.
I don't want that though. I realize I want to build the colony because we're here to build love. So like create community, love is rooted in
I'll have a big ass yard. Don't worry. I won't be close. I'll be all yard, like almost no house. That's what I want. So no worries there.
No, that's where it's
People
at.
will think it's your like shed a couple miles away. They'll be like, is that your shed in the distance? Like, no, some witch lives there. She's awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I don't think I have I don't really think I have anything else. Who inspires you the most? Not give up. Who inspires you to keep pushing forward in your darkest times and when you have thoughts of tiredness? Like, is it your mentor that you described? The guy that Peter, is his name Peter, right?
His name is Paul Greenhall.
Paul Greenhall. Would it be Paul? Or maybe it's multiple people. Maybe it's an artist. It could be someone intimate, it could be just someone you never even met that inspires you by their commitment to it. So I'd like to ask that.
I think that's a great question. I think right now I feel really, really inspired by this class I've been taking. It's with the Folster Studio. They're based out of New York. And the other actors in that group, in that workshop of people, it's like a collective of artists that are really working on their stuff. And every single week that I come to this class, I am like so deeply inspired by how hard these other artists are working to improve their craft. They're auditioning, they're doing the things that I'm doing. They're getting gigs, they're losing gigs, they're winning, they're losing, they're fighting the fight. But they're also along the way genuinely working on craft. And I think we have a really clear-headed teacher who's like, I know what we're looking for, honesty and truth, and just the kindness and generosity of spirit and caring that everyone brings to each other in that class has been so inspiring to me, because it's not just about their own journey. It's like we root for each other like it's your favorite sports team. And I feel so inspired by that group. I'm so grateful I found them. Yeah. The Folster Studio. Nobody do it. It's a sanctuary. Look into it. They have just wonderful classes.
I should take some acting classes. I currently just started taking, I have a voice, like a singing coach. I just started taking singing lessons.
Great.
Yeah. And I have someone teaching me music production. My friend who's produced my album, he's also teaching me mixing, because I'm like mixing my own podcast, and I'm going to start to mix my own music, and then I'm going to produce my own albums in the future. So I'm in the process of doing those things. So the only thing left that I really need to do is like get like an acting coach or start taking acting lessons, because I think it's the one thing that I want to get better at. And I actually feel like, I don't want to seem cocky, but I just feel like acting seems like the most natural thing that I've ever done. Like I've had to work really hard to be good at rapping, and singing's definitely not natural, and music producing, everything's not. And I'm not naturally the great, like I'm new to directing and like producing, but no, producing seems natural to me because I'm like a salesman, but like acting just seems like it's very natural to me. But I want to, like you're saying, I want to get better. Like I just feel like if I dedicated more to learning like you have, could reach my potential. And it's more, I'm just super curious to be what I meant to be, because I watch great performers and certain performers, and I look at some like I could easily do that. And there's other actors that I feel like, okay, I feel like I could do better than that. So it's just like, I just want to like challenge myself. And I feel like if you really believe in the art, it's like, that's what our duty. Like if I feel like if I want to be an actor, it's my duty to do that. If I feel like I'm not doing it, then I almost shouldn't even act if I'm just going to half-ass it and not willing to really see what I'm capable of as a performer. And
Oh, you can half-ass it, but the problem is there's going to be evidence of that. And
that,
I feel like even after studying it for so long as I have been looking at it and doing it, it's always elusive. It's always something you're kind of reaching to improve on. I mean, I think you haven't studied it enough if you go into it with a false confidence. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it, at least from my point of view.
so what would you say then why you don't have as much confidence?
No, I'm just saying, I think saying that it's not a naturally easy trait is not, I don't think I have a false confidence. I think I have a clear view of where I'm at in the practice. I think I'm better in some areas than in others, and there are certain pitfalls that I have to watch out for. And I think that's always going to change and grow, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree with you but I feel like here's my counterpart to that. Like I agree with you because in two parts. One, I actually feel like acting is the most natural, easiest thing because everyone acts every day. We do it. We play roles 7 days a week in the drama of life. Everyone is pretending. Acting is pretending to be someone you're not. Acting is fulfilling a role. And we do this every single day of our lives in different areas. I think the second part to that is more difficult that you're describing, I feel like is where humans is like, I'm naturally more tense. So I think it's easier for me to play a certain role that way, but I'm like really bad at acting a different way. That's not natural to who I am as Isaac. So I feel like that's where the craft comes in, is like almost recognizing your weaknesses, that like, I'm not really good at acting in these types of roles because like, I'm not naturally like that as Isaac, but I just feel like there's certain natural things that like, if you're naturally energetic and intense and passionate, like, wouldn't that be easy to bring into a character in a sense?
That's just demonstrating behavior versus acting. What you're talking about is our demonstrated behavior that we have in society, which is quite different from acting. And I think I've certainly been guilty of doing this in the past, like smearing a behavior on top of some lines and calling it acting as an acting, versus having the freedom to improvise within lines while creating a character that comes from yourself, but is outside of yourself in a sense, So to act is a bit different than I think of what we learn behaviorally, and I think that you can get away with, I've gotten away with certain things in the past where I'm doing a mood or I'm playing something in a behavioral sense, but not experiencing it. Does that make sense? Like there's behaving in a certain way, which is a bit restrictive in terms of what acting can be. And then there's experiencing, and that can be anything. You might be at your father's funeral and you might all of a sudden burst out laughing. Like you don't know who that person is. It's just you. It's in the moment. I don't know
Yeah.
how to explain it, but I just think there's a difference between being able to pop in and, there's a ceiling to what you're talking about in terms of what I think, how you define acting. I consider it to be very different from the way that what we do in our daily lives. Well, I understand what you mean, but
I get what you're saying. So it's like it's almost like let's say in our daily life, typically it's this very outer layer thinking and behavior versus like you're describing as acting is like you have the behavior, but it's like a much more deep dive into understanding this character, what they've been through, how they think, how they feel, what their viewpoints on life are, and like really diving into that experience of how to experience that. Is that what you're saying? Like, because
I'm saying the way we present ourselves at a work meeting may be considered to you acting, but a lot of the way we express ourselves socially is based on restriction is based off of here, I'm in this teaching setting. So I'm going to give you teaching Nora, right? And that means I'm going to restrict some of my vocabulary, my New Jersey crass vocabulary. I'm going to speak in these terms that developmentally you'll be able to understand. It's based off of restrictions when we fall into roles in society.
Yep.
But when we fall into a role as actors, it's about relaxing and letting go of restrictions and allowing for whatever expressiveness may come through us. And that might mean that I'm doing something totally bizarre, or I have a strange reaction, but I'm going to be more expressive instead of less. That's how I demonstrate in acting. So it's a little bit like they're like almost like little opposites in a sense. Your roles in society versus your roles as an actor. Your job is to open versus to narrow and be more specific.
What about someone in life that isn't following those restrictive roles?
Everyone is to a degree. I mean, we just agree to, if it's only just being kind and polite or opening a door, and everyone is to a degree. And it doesn't mean that it's negative restriction, but it is restriction.
I learned, that's great. I learned a lot. I didn't realize that. That means I need to take another class, take some classes.
Oh my God, you and me both.
Oh my gosh. Cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me today, because I've never taken an acting class, but I've been thinking about it like the last year, like really, especially with a lot of these productions that we were in, like we're done with them now, most of them, except we have a scene for Hamlet. And I was like, you know what, before we like get back into producing a bunch of films again, like I've really wanted to fine tune certain things, like our business model, like hiring directors to direct us versus us directing, and taking acting, just kind of fine tuning the craft before we go and try to scale and make more movies like we did. Like the last year and a half, we made 3 movies. Like, okay, let's stop and like do this stuff while we're doing pre-production before we just hop in producing again, to try to improve the craft of everything that we're doing.
Totally. Yeah. Level up.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good
Yeah.
for you doing all your stuff. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting me blabber your face off.
Yeah. And I feel like I actually, and I don't know, like, I just feel like comedy, I have so much fun. This last film that I did with Heart of Cinema, I just feel like I finally found like my niche of what I mean, other people might not think it's funny, but I felt like, I just know when I was doing it that I haven't felt that way about, like, I haven't felt that way in any form of acting before. When I was acting, playing, like, I was like, okay, I really like doing comedy, and like, just like, I just like improv and comedy, and just like, I just felt way more me. I just felt more like I was connected to that, and that it was more fun than doing these other roles. So I don't know. I just feel like, not saying I don't want to do drama. I think drama and other things is cool, but I just felt like I never had so much fun, and I never felt like this was like what I'm supposed to do. Like this, it just felt like things were clicking finally with the actual acting, that I was like, wow, this is really something that I feel like I'm good at, that I'm getting some decent feedback from people when we're sharing the content, that are laughing and they're saying they liked it. Like, I just feel like, so I kind of want to lean into that and kind of take acting, and even specifically like comedy. Like, is there specific courses on acting, comedy?
Yeah, I think that's a great area of focus. And I love when I feel like there's a couple times where, yeah, you hit a place where you're like, oh, this is a good space for me. Like I can live in this space and try and improve in this space. Yeah, there's all these like little avenues, but I think comedy is great for you. I think do comedy. There's room for everyone to do everything that we want to do.
I know.
There's room.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We had a very long talk, which I really like. It seemed natural.
Edits.
Is there anything you want to say to the audience before we head out? What do you want to say?
I would just want to say, like, pump the jams, pump it up while your feet are stumping. Pump the jams. You're gonna have copyright issues now.
You should get. I'm telling you, you need to be in comedy, man. You gotta keep doing. You gotta do comedy too.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
All right, you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for listening to us. Another episode of the More Love Nation show. Thank you, Nora, for coming on. I will let you know and the audience know before we release the episode. I will start marketing it and let everyone know. And we look forward to The Sins of the Father.
Pew, 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 pew.
Will it be out in 2022?
Oh, I believe so. But remember, we're closing out. I told you the air horn. Pew, 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 pew. Nora Targonski O'Brien.
Because I'm back in black. Ooh.
All right. I'll talk to you soon, I guess.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Felicia.